Welcome to the Happiness Matters podcast, where we'll explore happiness at work and show you how to coach yourself to be happier there and more successful too, no matter what.
Welcome to Series 1, Episode 1 of the Happiness Matters podcast, where we're talking how happy at work are you? I'm your host, Julia Seal. Last week, we introduced ourselves and what this podcast is about. It's a coaching journey to share with you how to coach yourself to happiness and success at work, no matter what. We're now kicking off the first series in the Happiness Matters coaching process. Each one of the series is a happiness coaching process in and of itself, and all 6 series make up the overall Happiness Matters coaching journey designed to transform your happiness and success at work. So Series 1 is called Defining and Assessing, where we'll be digging deeper into what we mean when we say happy at work, no matter what. Working with a coach always starts with defining the issue. What's the issue you're grappling with? What's the problem? Where are you feeling stuck in your life? It looks at where you want to be, why you want the change, and what you've tried before. So in this first series, we're doing just this. We're starting our coaching journey together, exploring ways to assess your happiness, define and refine what happiness and success at work actually mean to you, and understanding the traps, blocks, and obstacles getting in your way, as well as how the happiness paradox applies to your coaching journey. If you listen, download the free worksheets and join in the conversation on Facebook, you'll start learning how to coach yourself and changing the game in your happiness at work, no matter what your current circumstances. You will be surprised and I hope intrigued at what shifts can take place in your life just through this first series. So today we're getting started with the very first step in the Defining and Assessing coaching journey, where we're going to look at how happy are you right now? How happy and successful at work are you right now? I've got a fun assessment tool for you that you can start using on a daily basis, as well as some happiness definitions from across the world and through history that I trust you'll enjoy and find useful. Before we get started, I've created a free worksheet for you to download so you can get started with coaching yourself immediately. It's called the Happiness Ladder, and you can get this by going to our website www.happiness-matters.coach/free. I will also post the download into our Facebook group, Happiness-Matters.coach. If you do want to work with me directly in a coaching program designed especially for your own happiness journey, you can sign up on our website, Happiness-Matters.coach, and just click on the yellow button. So, assessment. Assessment is the first step in any coaching journey, and we're going to use the happiness ladder as our starting point. First of all, what is the happiness ladder? Well, if you don't have the freebie download in front of you, visualize a ladder and yourself on the ladder. At the top rung of the ladder is 10 out of 10 happiness, and at the bottom of the ladder is 0 out of 10 happiness. And if I ask you right now, how happy are you? What is your gut response when I ask you your number right now? Is it an 8? 4? 2? Now don't think about the number. Just go with your first reaction to start with. We're going to build on this. Now the happiness ladder is not just a cute little tool that I designed. It's actually based on Cantrell's self-anchoring ladder of life satisfaction. Yes, that's quite a mouthful. Or the Cantrell ladder of life, and was created by Dr. Hadley Cantrell back in 1965. Dr. Cantrell held a PhD in psychology from Harvard University and worked much of his life at Princeton. His publication, The Pattern of Human Concerns, introduced this ladder assessment tool. If you want to read more, I've put the link in the show notes on our website. Cantrell's also respected for his work into the psychology behind propaganda, which I find particularly interesting as I trained as a journalist in the height of South Africa's apartheid era. But I digress. That was a squirrel moment. Actually, another squirrel diversion, and this one for my stepson Thomas. Dr. Cantrell's also famous for his writing, The Invasion from Mars, a study in the psychology of panic. As we record this, Thomas is on his way to Detroit in the United States to the finals of an international schools robotics championship. His team is representing South Africa with their project on how to use methane gas to power rockets returning from Mars. He has a big step up on the happiness ladder for his dad and me. Anyway, back to Dr. Cantrell's measure of life satisfaction and why it's the perfect tool to start assessing your happiness. Gallup, the management consulting company known for its public opinion polls, uses Cantrell's ladder for the United Nations Annual World Happiness Report. If you've not heard of this before, every year since 2012, the UN conducts a survey of the state of global happiness that ranks 156 countries by how happy their citizens perceive themselves to be. I've adapted the instructions used by Gallup in the latest World Happiness Report. The details of the exact instructions from Gallup are also in the freebie download, as are some links to the UN's World Happiness Project. Let's go back to the snapshot number you took at the very start of this conversation. I'd like you to visualize yourself on the happiness ladder according to that number. How happy are you right now based on your current definition and understanding of happiness and success at work right now? In the next step, please come up with 2 or 3 reasons why you chose this number, and write these down on the worksheet as well. All we're doing is capturing a snapshot of where you are, what's top of mind for you in defining your happiness at work, and using this awareness to spark thinking and creativity. For myself, I've used this numerous times in the years, and sometimes numerous times in a day, and I'm always impressed by the increased awareness and level of insight the ladder can create in a very short space of time. For example, as I was creating this podcast, I did the exact same exercise as you're doing now. I came up with 6 out of 10 on the happiness ladder, and my 3 why reasons were: I'm a bit irritable because my office is too hot and the wind is too strong to open the door. I'm loving writing this with my dog asleep on my foot, and I'm feeling very focused in getting this done as I want to join my husband for a hike this evening. Now you've seen how I've done it. Why don't you download the worksheet and fill it in? You can share your numbers and the 3 reasons you came up with on our Facebook page. I'm going to be in there regularly to chat to you about your numbers and answer any questions you have about using the happiness ladder. We're now going to look at some definitions of happiness and happiness at work and see how these might inform our happiness coaching journey and possibly might even change where you choose to stand on the happiness ladder. You've already got some idea of how I define happiness from my 3 quick reasons. If you remember, mine were stuffy environment, ladder down; dog love, ladder up; intense work focus, ladder up. So you'll see how you define happiness from the reasons you gave. It could be anything, from your loud colleague talking on his mobile phone in the open plan office, dreading an upcoming meeting that you're not prepared for, getting a salary increase, going on holiday tomorrow. I hope you'll share these on Facebook so we can see just how diverse our definitions of happiness in the moment are. Happiness has been of interest for humans for forever. Well, certainly since we started keeping records, we have been thinking about, discussing, researching, searching for happiness, pursuing happiness, all in the hope we can get closer to an understanding of what makes us happy and how we can cultivate it. All languages, as far as I'm aware, even the oldest languages such as Tamil and ancient Egyptian have words for happiness. Then there are the words that we need in English, like the Chinese character called double happy, which can represent marriage and which my parents had framed above the door in their bedroom. In Sanskrit, the difference between sukha, happiness as an authentic state of being, and praya, happiness as transient pleasure. Our languages reflect our cultural beliefs about happiness. Even our new technology age has its own hieroglyphics, emojis and emoticons that express the various nuances in what we mean when we talk happiness. We have the ancient Greek word eudaimonia, which means the good life, living well and faring well, being in a contented state of being healthy, happy, and prosperous. We have the kindergarten song, if you're happy and you know it, clap your hands, and I'm not going to sing on the podcast. And we have Hello Kitty, the much-loved Japanese fictional cartoon character who has no mouth, precisely so she speaks no one particular language, but speaks happiness from the heart. Defining happiness used to be the domain of philosophy and religion. We have much we can learn to expand our own definition of happiness from the world's great thinkers, from as far back as 2,500 years ago. Just think, 2,500 years ago, we were thinking about how to be happier. The thinkers from our past looked at happiness in terms of 4 things: pleasure, desire, reason, and suffering. How to be able to moderate pleasure, how to control desire, how to transcend or rely upon reason, and how to endure suffering. I've picked out 3 I've particularly enjoyed learning about. Epicurus, a Greek philosopher who lived in 270 BC, explored happiness from this perspective: that pleasure is good, that the sole source of happiness is pleasure. Now, Epicurus and his followers were a bit misunderstood. They actually withdrew from society, renounced luxury, and abstained from sensual indulgence. But citizens of Greece were suspicious because there were women involved, and they got a reputation for scandalous behavior. But actually, Epicurus was all about pleasure as the absence of desire, the calm after the storm, and tranquility. Seneca, Lucius Seneca, was a Roman Stoic around the time of Jesus, and most well known as part of Nero's tyrannical regime. He is respected for his writings on detachment and indifference, and how these could bring happiness in times of immense difficulty. Ghazali, Abu Hamid al-Ghazali, an Islamic scholar in the 1200s, who left his career, family, and wealth to pray alone in Damascus for 2 years. He wrote The Alchemy of Happiness, where he describes how, just like an alchemist aims to transform lead into gold, we can transform our vices into virtues to become the best possible versions of ourselves. And then, of course, there's Aristotle, who today we consider to be the father of happiness studies. Aristotle was a Greek rationalist who lived about 300 years before Christ, and who wrote about exploring happiness in his famous text, the Nicomachean Ethics, and who brought to life the Greek word for the good life, eudaimonia. He writes, "We are created for happiness. Happiness is the ultimate goal of every person's life, the highest end of human striving. Happiness is the meaning and purpose of life, the whole aim and end of human existence." And this one particularly: everything that we choose, We choose for the sake of something else. Everything except for happiness. I am planning a bonus episode for you on Aristotle's contributions to our views on happiness, as he said much more than just this. Of course, exploring happiness didn't end in ancient times, and major thinkers from East and West have continued to devote much of their lives to understanding our ongoing pursuit. And here are some other examples from more modern times to inspire and intrigue you. David Hume, one of the most influential of the Enlightenment philosophers from Scotland, wrote 4 essays in the mid-1700s on human life and happiness, saying, "The great end of all human industry is the attainment of happiness. For this were arts invented, sciences cultivated, laws ordained, and societies modelled." In 1776, Thomas Jefferson, the founding father of the United States of America, wrote the Declaration of Independence that states, "We hold these truths to be self-evident, that all men are created equal, that they are endowed by their Creator with certain inalienable rights, that among these are life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness." Happiness enshrined at an entire country's birth. The Dalai Lama, leader of Tibetan Buddhism, says, "Whether one believes in religion or not, whether one believes in this religion or that religion, the very purpose of our life is happiness. The very motion of our life is towards happiness." Psychologist Dr. Martin Seligman promoted the term positive psychology and pioneered an entirely new field of study. So instead of focusing on mental illness, psychological research and practices started to look at individuals' mental health, our well-being, and what is going right. He's well known for his well-being PERMA mnemonic, which stands for positive emotion, engagement, relationships, meaning, and achievement. We even have a new economic model to measure countries. Not only are we using the traditional GDP, but now there's GNH, Gross National Happiness. This was a term originally used by the King of Bhutan back in 1972, when he declared that gross national happiness is more important than gross domestic product. This captured the world's attention, and we're now annually ranking countries according to the GNH Index, which looks at 9 dimensions, including psychological well-being, cultural diversity and resilience, and time use, all key happiness definitions. Dr. Tal Ben-Shahar, creator of Harvard's most popular course in its history, is also the first to develop a field of studies dedicated to an interdisciplinary academic approach of happiness. His definition, happiness is the experience of whole person well-being, of whole being. This includes the 5 aspects called SPIRE: spiritual, physical, intellectual, relationship, and emotional whole being. Looking back at history shows us how similar we are, how different we are, and how happiness is of top importance to us all, ancient, modern, east, west, young, old. The interest in happiness and being happy spans the entirety of our human history. It also shows us just how individual the definition of happiness and success is for each of us. Now that you've heard some of the richness of the exploration of happiness from our very beginnings, how does this help you think about your ladder? Would you make any adjustments on your ladder, and what's at the top, at the bottom, or on each rung? Has any of this enhanced or adapted what your happiness ladder looks like? The last area I want to talk about today is a further extension to these definitions and the work we've done in adding to our happiness ladder. Let's consider happiness at work and look at some definitions in this area. So much has been written. The web is full of articles on how to be happy at work. Some of the information is actually based on research and some on anecdotal evidence. Today, I'm just going to look at 2 sources. Gallup, the management consulting firm I mentioned earlier, has done years of work on understanding employee happiness, motivation, and engagement at work. Their survey, the Q12 Engagement Survey, includes some key concepts we want to explore around our happiness at work. I will include a link in the show notes so you can consider all 12, but here are my favorite. At work, do you have the opportunity to do what you do best every day? At work, do your opinions seem to count? Does your supervisor or someone at work seem to care about you as a person? Do you have a best friend at work? The University of California, Berkeley, has an entire center, the Greater Good Science Center, that focuses on positive psychology research into happiness and the constructs that make it up. They define happiness at work in terms of 4 key pillars: purpose, engagement, resilience, and kindness. Purpose means knowing that your work matters to you, your organization, and the world, where you make a valuable contribution to others or to society that you find personally meaningful. Engagement is a positive, fulfilling, work-related state of mind where you feel a strong sense of vigor towards and absorption in work activities. Resilience is being able to handle adversity with grace, to face challenges and recover from setbacks, be accountable for failures, and resolve conflict at work. And kindness includes being genuinely nice to other people and includes forming strong, supportive social connections at work that help us collaborate. We will definitely explore work concepts of happiness in far more detail through this podcast. But for now, what contribution do these ideas bring to your sense of happiness at work? Now you've heard all these views, how does this help you think about your ladder? Would you make any further adjustments about what's at the top and at the bottom, or even on each rung? So how are you defining happiness and success at work right now? Today's coaching started with assessing where you are on the journey using the happiness ladder, and then started narrowing in on your definition, exploring and refining a definition that is uniquely yours, using some examples from the world's wisdom. Don't forget to download your freebie worksheet to support the self-coaching journey. You'll find it on our website, as well as all the show notes and all the links I've spoken about. And of course, we hope to meet you online on Facebook. I'd love to know what's in and what's out in your definitions. And if anything from today's show changed how you're defining and assessing your own happiness and success at work. Thank you again for joining us today as we start our Happiness Matters coaching journey together. I'm so looking forward to our next session, where we're going to go even deeper into this topic, expanding on what you've discovered by using the happiness ladder, and then crafting your own happiness game with me. A fun game we play with our clients. Bye for now from Cape Town, where the hot southeaster wind is blowing.
Thanks for joining us on this Happiness Matters podcast. Do join us again here next week on Tuesday. You can subscribe to this series at Apple Podcasts on iTunes, or you can sign up for it on our website, Happiness-Matters.coach. That's Happiness-Matters.coach. COACH. Also, you can join our conversation on Facebook by following us there. Our Facebook page is also Happiness-Matters.coach.